is September 10th, 2025, and this is a meeting of the Appointments Committee. And this meeting is being recorded and will be rebroadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. The chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. Seeing none. This meeting will be replayed via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072, and it may also be accessed via the Government Access Channel live video on demand archives on the Town of Barnstable's website. And roll call, Councillor Crowe.
Here.
Councillor Bloom.
Here.
Councillor Burdick. Councillor Mendez. And myself, Councillor Turkelson, as chair, here. And we will start with public comment. We have two people waiting to be interviewed. They're always welcome to make public comment, but Mr. Moran, do you have any public comment you'd like to make?
Yes, I know you like it in advance.
Yeah, that'd be
Can
great.
I sit here?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to track through your agenda so that it can be simple. I've known Ray for several years now, and
he admits it.
yeah. And so anyway, he was very much involved in conservation matters as an applicant for things. So where he goes, I support him. I'm just going to go down in the order it's on here. The Conservation Commission, there are two members that are up for reappointment, and so then in my mind, that creates two vacancies subject to their being reappointed, and there's other people that have applied. I can only encourage that there be some changes. So in that regard, there's some very qualified people that have applied. The Human Resources, or Human Services rather, was held at a meeting here last night. The vice chair failed to show again for her she just didn't come, and there was no mention why she wasn't there. And that comes up for the Committee on Committees next week. So I recommend that any decision on that appointment be suspended until such time as a Committee on Committees rules on it. Now the Planning Board, I'm not going to get into. You've got a lot of things covered there. I think that probably is enough, Kristen, but those are the points that I wanted to make. Okay?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ray Sexton, come on up, grab a chair. This is Raymond Sexton. He's applying for the planning board. It's actually a reappointment for him.
Yes.
He's also on his application checked off that he's interested in the Conservation Commission.
If there's.
So I think this is just to speak to Larry's points. Come have a seat. Okay. We've made, after Councilor Mendez's process last time, that anybody that's up for reappointment, if there's other people that want the seat, that we re-interview the people, because no seat is a guarantee just because you're there. Mm-hmm. The Conservation Commission has people up for reappointment. Mm-hmm. We've had other people apply for the Conservation Commission as well. We haven't re-interviewed the two people up for reappointment, so we won't be deciding on the Conservation Commission today, because we will re-interview them just like we're re-interviewing you, and we wouldn't be putting anybody on the planning board till we had your interview. But I think it's good that we just make this a dual thing, so I don't have to bring you back.
Sure.
Because I know some of us are familiar with your work on the planning board, but the Conservation Commission is a different thing. They're two different things, so we'll deal with those kind of all at once, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
Cut to the chase. Councillor Bloom, would you like to start?
Sure. Planning board first?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. What are your thoughts about the possibility of deleterious effects of overdevelopment in the town of Barnstable?
Interesting question. So I have focused, one of my main areas of concern is about affordable housing or affordability of housing. There are a number of different ways to skin that cat. And it also has to do with what is the definition of overdevelopment. There's a carrying capacity, if you will. If we go back to Rachel Carson, The land, there's only so much water, there's so much land, there's so much clean air, et cetera. So that's a limiting factor. The next thing is things like there's economic concerns. Do we have a sustainable year-round economy? And what does that entail? What does that require? Then is there enough clean water to sustain whoever lives here? And I'm very concerned. I live on Shoestring Bay, and as a matter of fact, I'll just give you a commercial for that. Shoestring Bay has a line right down the middle, and one half is Barnstable and one half is Mashpee. It's fed by Santuit Pond, which is in Mashpee. Around Santuit Pond are a bunch of old-timey houses with cesspools. And every time somebody flushes the toilet, it goes right into Santuit Pond that flows into Shoestring Bay. And every spring, there's these tremendous algae blooms. And I ask, the planning board got a nice presentation from Public Works about the sewer plan for Barnstable. And one of the things I asked was, well, what are you doing about Shoestring Bay? Because the problem is in another town, and yet we share it. And I hear that there was a working group that is supposed to be dealing with that. And I said, well, when's the last time the working group met? Oh, I don't know, a year and a half ago. So these are things that some of these have been kicked down the road for a while. And now it's time to pay the piper. I think you are sitting right now at a critical time to make some decisions on, okay, so when you say overdevelopment, okay, what does that mean? It can mean, so the sewering plan, it shows where the sewers are supposed to go. Where I live, won't be until for 30 years. And in the meantime, okay, people have their septic tanks and their advanced septic tanks and AI septic tanks and what have you. But the bottom line is you're putting your crap into the ground, which ultimately will leach into, in my case, Shoestring Bay or the harbor or wherever. So on the one hand, we do need a workforce that can sustain our economy. On the other hand, it means that we got to do it smartly. So for example, right now in many places we have either an acre or 2 acre minimum lot size. So what do? We put a great big house there, and it's a family with many bedrooms and usually a septic hookup. And one of the things I've discussed with my colleagues is, well, why can't we maybe, and it costs a whole bunch of money. Maybe we should make, if there's going to be a sewer line going through there, why not try to allow for subdivision to say, well, maybe we do two acre lots or 4 half-acre lots that are connected to a sewer line, which then are less expensive. They don't have 7 bedrooms, they have 3. And maybe our nurses and our police and our firemen have a place that they can afford to live. Now, where that goes, how many of those are the questions that I think we need to talk to smart guys like Jim Kupfer to advise us, to say, on the one hand, I think it's a good idea. On the other hand, we have to be careful how we go about executing it. So overdevelopment, so we have, I just breezed through them. There's, I think, 6 amendments to the zoning code that are now going to the planning board to review. And some, for example, reduce building height, some increase parking spaces. The developers will tell you that that doesn't make them happy in some cases, because it means they need more space for parking spaces, and we will end up having lots of parking spaces and less housing. On the other hand, there's a concern about the overdevelopment means, and I know that that's just like affordable housing is important to me. I know overdevelopment is important to you. And it's got to be done smartly, but it means like, okay, so on Main Street, if we have commercial spaces on the ground floor or entities like that, just like, I don't know where you grew up, but just like in a lot of cities in the Northeast, you know, people lived above the store. Matter of fact, my mother and her family, they lived in South Windsor, Connecticut, above a store that was run by this Lebanese family, and she used to babysit their son, who was Ralph Nader.
Yeah.
So there's some old ideas that are, I think they're pretty good. It's just, it's the where and how much, and I think I don't think that we can do a one-size-fits-all approach. I do think that density is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's where it is and how it's supported. Because if you have apartment buildings that are still using septic systems, that's a bad idea. But if you go to Willow Bend, it's pretty dense and it has its own sewage treatment plant. And thank goodness, because otherwise Shoestring Bay would even be in worse shape than it is. So I hopefully kind of give you a feeling for, I don't think you can just say no more development. And on the other hand, you can't say we're just going to develop anywhere. And in between, you have to say we have to develop zoning and a permitting process and things like that and guidelines that will not scare the developers away, because if you walk down Main Street, there's empty storefronts and things like that. And if we want to help with that, then we have to assist. Hey, Seth.
Hi, Ray. Sorry to meet everyone.
So, again, I think we have to be smart about that. And I think that there's no absolute, if you will. I think that when we talk about smart development, it means development that takes into account the sustainability, the economic viability, the social impact, what kind of community do we want, and how we support that. And then just the, if you will, the historical context. I mean, what's the place been like? I'm gonna do a thing for Katuitt. Katuitt is, you have a kind of a flavor and environment in Katuitt. It's a lovely little community. And what's taken place there takes into account that it's a lovely little community that used to, back in the day, was one of the first little vacation places for places like the faculty from Harvard. So I think that's probably, I'll stop there to give you, I think I gave you a good enough idea of.
Yeah,
kind of what I'm
definitely.
going.
Thank you.
So Councilor Burdick,
Here I am.
yeah, we're gonna tell Cindy you're here. Ray, obviously it's stated here that he's here for the planning board, but he's also applied for the Conservation Commission. So we're just kind of thinking about discussing both so we can not have to have him come back.
I don't know what happened. I sobered up and then I
Yeah.
found out
Do you
I volunteered for the
withdraw anything here?
Conservation Commission.
Councilor Crowe, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Mr. Sexton, we seem to have a lot of permitted now for market level housing. And we do have the inclusionary zoning that I think we have, the council may want to tweak that to a larger number if possible. But right now we've got I don't know, I wouldn't say glut, but we've got a lot of already permitted market rate housing. How do you see us getting to more permitted affordable housing in the town?
Oh, good question. As I said, I'm Steve Robichaud's designated burr under the saddle about that. So the actual guideline is that, let's see, I guess it's any project that 10 units or above has to have at least 10% of affordable housing. What that means, what that translates to frequently is that you get people that will, there's a lot of Niners out there, for one thing. The other thing which is interesting is also for the larger and fancier developments, a lot of times the proposal is to locate the affordable part off-site, someplace else. One way that the planning board has tried to make a difference with that is to say, okay, 10% is, that's a floor, it's not a ceiling. So let's talk, if you're putting in 30 units and you're on the hook for 3, but actually maybe 5 or 6. And there is a negotiation process with that. The other thing is that there are some folks in town that are actually, their expertise is building affordable housing. And they're very good at getting public money, whether it's state or federal or tax breaks, and I think you probably know some of them. Those are the kind of projects also that can be encouraged. The other thing is to explore public-private projects, in Habitat for Humanity, for example, where we've got publicly owned properties. For instance, in Marston's Mills. There's another one in Katuitt that Seth has the scars of just going through what was going to happen to the old school. At any rate, those are potential sites where the town doesn't necessarily have to be a landlord or an entrepreneur, but can partner with somebody that has gone through and is an expert in developing sites like that. So I think that we have an opportunity to do that. It's just whether we have the inclination to do so. But I think that we do have options on that front. And as I said, one of the things is if they, at the minimum, they owe you 3, at least get 4.
Okay. How do you see your role in the planning board as moving that kind of thing forward?
Anything that comes before the planning board, particularly the larger projects, I, for one, am a voice to urge to increase the affordable unit portion of any proposed project. It also means working with our professional staff to help the developers, because what their complaint is that it's going to cost us a bunch of money. And this stuff is, we're getting killed. We need this many units just to make a buck. If that's the case, then there's got to be other ways around the barn in order to be able to say, okay, you're going to make a decent profit and you're going to provide affordable housing. So those are the kind of things that I work with Jim Cuffer and his staff, and I also discuss with my colleagues when we're discussing these things. You have to have advocates, and I'm one.
Okay, one other question. Conservation Commission is one of the things you're putting your name for also, is that I understand?
Yeah, I would like to help out. If there's a need for it, then I'll raise my hand.
Okay, what do you see as how you can help the Conservation Commission if you were put on that?
I think you saw my resume. I got 37 years of being the best intel analyst in the United States government. And I can learn anything and I can figure out things. And it basically, between the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission, I think these are the 2 critical nodes in shaping as our community as we go forward. And I think that's a very important responsibility, never shied from responsibility. And I learned about the planning, zoning and planning, and that basket of knowledge. I also, I just think that this is a beautiful place. I think we have a responsibility to take care of it and hopefully leave it in a little better shape than the folks that came before us. So between the feeling of responsibility and my ability to learn and become expert in things, I'm pretty confident that I can help out if needed.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councilor Bloom, did you want to ask anything in relation to the Conservation Commission before I hand it over to Councilor Burdick, or you don't have to?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor,
Hand it over.
okay, Councilor Burdick?
Okay, hi Ray.
Hi.
You're not unknown to me, but I read one of the most interesting things I've read lately is your resume, which is really, I tend to at these interviews, and since as I said, you're not unknown to me, and your work on the planning board has been good all these years, but I tend to focus on what's in people's background and who they are and a little bit and all that. So tell me a little bit about your work. This is like 5-6 pages, probably 3,000 words.
Yeah.
Just the high points, I guess.
Yeah, well, you missed my joke at the beginning. Do I kill him now?
Yeah, totally.
It's a good one, better be.
Well, you haven't told him all the rest of us are gonna be dead, you told us.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, I was saying, if I told you what I did, I'd have to kill you.
Of course.
It was an interesting ride. I came out of grad school, with an advanced degree, no military background, and I actually ended up at Fort Bragg, the home of the 82nd Airborne Division, hoo-ah. And my first project was to write an Army country profile, which is sort of, here's this country, and there was specific sections on the geography and the people and the politics and the military. And it just so happened my project was on this little sand spit of an island called Grenada. And some paratrooper from the 82nd busted in the door into our office and said, "Where's Grenada? Do they have an army? Whose side are they on?" And what had happened, the Cubans had cozied up. They had set up an airport and an airfield, and the Reagan administration got really upset about it, and we sent in the Army and the Navy and the Marines. And I was the guy that had the only maps, and it was pretty interesting. And they took my draft and they made 1,000 copies of it and sent it out to the 18th Airborne Corps. So I actually, not that we don't ever plunder or loot our troops, but I did get some excellent Cuban cigars. So it's been a fun ride, and we were talking about it before. So I worked for we would say I worked for 3-letter agencies. I worked for the Army, and then I worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA. I worked for the National Security Agency, NSA, and I ended up working with the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, and then finally I worked in the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, ODNI, which coordinates everything. They are the chief intelligence officer. And within that, one more, I work for IARPA, which is the Intelligence Advanced Research Projects Agency, which is the intelligence community version of DARPA, which you may or may not have. DARPA is the one that invented the internet, and this is the Intel version of it. I was the director for talent and knowledge management, which meant I was responsible for recruiting mad scientists and sort of taking their care and feeding, and also from the amazing things that they were learning, how that can be actually operationalized. I mean, it's great. So we find out, well, I can do this. Well, okay, but how do we take that and make our country a little bit safer, or help our military identify a target faster, and friend or foe, and then engage or not engage, and things like that. So it was really fascinating. And there was the national security editor of the Washington Post wrote a book called Quantum Spy, and it was all about our agency, because we have these folks that they're the leading edge in quantum computing, and machine learning, which we all now know as artificial intelligence. And they do things that there's no words for. They have to make them up. And the story was that the Chinese tried to get in and infiltrate our research effort. So those are some of the things. I love to learn. I've learned a lot from the folks. And because of my operational experience, I was able to say, well, that's a great idea, but maybe, so we could take, this computer simulation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and hook it up to an air defense system and make it a lot smarter. Or the facial recognition, again, we were the cutting edge for that. And they say, okay, let's have a challenge where who can come up with the best system so that Mr. Bad Guy, I always say Abu Mohammed Bad Guy, but apparently that's you're not supposed to. It's politically incorrect now. But the bad guy, the scenario is bad guy walks into TF Green Airport because it's a nice quiet little place. Walks into TF Green Airport because they're going to do something bad. And okay, your system, how fast can your system pick up your sensors pick up the guy's face, run it through the library to find out, good guy, bad guy, whatever, and then send an alert to security to drop the net on them before they can do something bad in TF Green. That was a lot of fun, and it was just amazing. And if I could write a book about it, I would, but they would come and probably lock me up. Yeah, I would be killed.
Well, I'm sorry if that was a repeat for everybody after. Yeah, that's about all. I mean, I think, as I said, you're a known quantity on the planning board, and I think you're doing good work, so.
Thank you.
And the Conservation Commission, was that on your initial, years ago, when you filled this out?
Actually, it was interesting. Again, that's what I initially applied for.
Yeah.
And then put in the paperwork and then sort of waited and then called and said, I'm all dressed up and ready to go. And they said, oh, that position's been filled. And I said, say what? No, that's interesting. And so how'd that happen? And then all of a sudden there was this, it wasn't me. And they said, well, there's an opening on the planning board. And I said, what do they do? And I said, oh, that's important too. Okay, I'll do that. And I want to just say, the planning board, I'm really, really proud to be a member of. It's a group of people that don't necessarily agree, but there's the expertise in a lot of different places. And everyone respects each other. Everyone respects our respective points of view, and it's very collegial. And I find the process refreshing, and I'm really proud to be part of it. And I think overall, I'm not wearing out my coat, patting myself on the back, but I think that we've done good work, and it's a result of 7 people that are dedicated to doing the right thing. And whether it's popular or not, speaking truth to power, whatever. And that it's been a tremendous experience. So I guess that was really good, and I'd like to hopefully bring that mindset to the Conservation Committee if it's needed.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. That's all I have to say.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask one question. It's actually kind of 2 questions, but because I don't want to put words in your mouth and I don't want to lead you into a trap. So I'd like you to argue on one side why we should have one person in multiple committees, like why that's a good thing for the town.
Yeah.
And then I'd like you to also argue why is it maybe a bad thing if we have one person in so many committees. I want you to just speak to both sides of that argument so we can hear your pros and cons for that concept. Because if you've been following any of the work that the Committee on Committees has been doing, as we've been saying, when we have one person in multiple places, that it's limiting resident input. It's one voice that's speaking loudly on many platforms, and it's kind of infiltrating many areas of public policy and life. So, we're sensitive to the concept of that and what might come down the pike as a recommendation out of so I'm just curious, because you've been doing great work, we know that, and now you want to get into another board that has substantial regulatory power, so
it's funny, so I will say, this is a classic example of be careful what you ask for, you just might get it. And I appreciate the fact that you sort of gave me an escape hatch. Like, okay, never mind.
No, I mean, I don't want to I'm not trying to trap you into saying.
As Seth will tell you, I'm a Wash ashore, a relative newbie. I moved here in 2020. And being the kind of person I am, I looked around and watched how things worked and how people were, and it's very, very interesting. I mean, I've encountered people on the planning board that people, walk up and they say, I'm a 6th generation Cape Codder, so I know what's good for here. And I say, well, are you an engineer, or, are you a city planner, or are you, besides, that and I don't know what it is now, like $7 will get you a cup of coffee at, Dunkin' Donuts.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, but, so one of the things I've observed is that, for whatever reason, and I won't go into the reasons because I'm still kind of kicking that around, but that's what happens. There's a relatively small portion of the population here, and I'm gonna talk about the permanent as opposed to the seasonal, although they have things to offer too. And again, you've got the scars from that, and we'll discuss it. Well, we're gonna have citizens on these committees. And it's like, okay, what's a citizen? Somebody that lives here year round. Oh, okay. We've been just at the local, the lowest political division, the fire district. There's folks that they wear many, many hats. And to me, that means that you got, even though supposedly they're representing their community, we're human beings. So you kind of say, okay, unless I'm elected, and I'm supposed to represent my constituency, I got some ideas, and I want you to hear these ideas. And depending on the personality, it can be my way or the highway, or I'm open to hearing alternative ideas. So depending on that mix, if you will, you run a risk of, if you have somebody on many, or even two. I mean, it's a risk, and I don't know the flip side. So the flip side is, well, if you don't have somebody serving multiple positions, do you have a replacement? What are you gonna do? You're gonna go out and beat the bushes, and how are you gonna find a replacement for them? Because there's, I find now that it's difficult to get people to volunteer, especially when you're talking about volunteers, right? It's not like they're getting paid a whole bunch of money to serve on these committees. So I would say be careful. On the one hand, there is the risk of, okay, we're limiting community input. If it's possible to bring more people in, great. I find, again, in Katuitt, that there's a group of folks that are, I've lived here my whole life and never gone anywhere, never done anything, so I know what's best for Katuitt. I will frankly say, I don't necessarily agree with that attitude or find it useful. On the other hand, you gotta find bodies to show up and have a quorum. So, and unless you can get the people to come out of the woodwork who've been intimidated by these folks, then you kind of cutting your nose off, spite your face, say, okay, everybody's gonna only serve on one committee. Then all of a sudden these committees start, showing holes. And what do? Do you get rid of committees, or do you change the quorum rules, or what do you do? So I think in its essence, it's probably it's not a bad idea to try to limit the number of committees one can be on. On the other hand, if you're gonna do that, you better have a good way of attracting more talent.
Makes sense. All right, well, we appreciate your time. We're glad we finally got you here. And
Yeah.
that we killed two birds with one stone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, do you want me to linger, or am I?
If you want to linger, you're more than happy to linger. You're not required to linger.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a pleasure. I'm really glad to meet you all.
Yeah.
See
Absolutely,
you.
good to see you always.
Yeah. Sometime you gotta come down to Katuitt and see Santa Claus come ashore in a boat.
I
That's
know,
great.
That's coming right up, so it feels like it's almost Christmas.
Yeah. I helped set up his throne last year. All right. Take care.
Thanks, Ray.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Take it easy.
Next, we have Joe Tacania. He's, come on up, Joe. I know, you okay that I called you Joe instead of Joseph?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, do I have to follow that?
Better you than me.
Only if you can save the world can you follow that. So this is Joe Tacania. He's applying also for the planning board to a regular member term expiring 6/30 of 2028. Just for historical perspective, Joe was with us a bit back applying for other committees, so you can see that tape way back in the Wayback Machine. I don't remember the exact date.
3 times.
Huh?
3 times.
3 times.
This is the 3rd time that I've interviewed Joe. There was one,
For the ad hoc.
either the 2nd or 3rd, because there was one prior where you were applying for.
Oh, infrastructure and energy.
Yeah, that was the one,
Yeah,
and
wait,
then
that
there
was my
was
first
Then I was here in May
for the
for
ad
the
hoc.
housing committee.
Or
For the housing,
the
yeah, I
housing
think it's just twice, right?
So maybe just 2 times.
Yeah, just
This is my
third time's the
This
charm,
is my
Joe,
third.
here we are.
I feel like there was one that you
My
came over
third
to
time.
me and then.
So you can go back and see those other videos, everybody, if you wanna watch them. So we're all familiar with Mr. Tacania. Maybe John was not here for the original one for the infrastructure and energy. He was here for the housing committee application, so again, we're all know you on some level. We see Joe at meetings a lot. Councilor Burdick, would you like to start?
Sure, having said what I just said, what could I ask you? I don't know.
This might be the shortest interview ever.
Energy and infrastructure, housing, and the ad hocs. Didn't you apply for an ad hoc?
I don't think.
I did not
I
apply
didn't
for
think
an
Joe
No, I'm
did,
making
no.
stuff up. After interviewing hundreds of people over the last 2 years, right? But anyway, for the record, for us, for our entertainment, tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, because I remember now, what I'm remembering is you worked for, it was a big Swiss company or European company, Dutch company that made made the handbooks for, what is it? It was legal books for all kinds of different things.
Legal, medical, regulatory, was, back in the day, it was a loose leaf publisher. Every Friday, you got your package of new pages, and you'd go through all 36 volumes, swapping out all the edits and updates. Thank God it's digital now. But I worked in an area that was mostly corporate regulation, corporate compliance. Did a lot of work I was there for 42 years.
So everything.
I changed jobs every 2 or 3 years. I was in finance, I was in IT, I was in customer relations, I was in government relations, I was in sales, chef with many hats.
Yeah.
I've always been kind of involved in the whole, organizational behavior, regulation, compliance, state regulations, and relations. And in my private life, I've always gotten involved in whatever community I was living in at the time, and I have moved around a bit, but local government, local, town select board or town council, whichever it was. And I've always just kind of believed in service to the community. So, where I could, because I was often a commuter, but, I would always, try to get involved in local boards, local organizations.
Right.
And I've done the same since I've been here. I know I interviewed before for the Infrastructure and Energy Committee, but at the same time, when I had sent in my first application for committees, I think I probably checked off, 4 or 5 different committees that I'd be interested in. And planning had always been one of them. So I know I kind of had that on file. And I often watch the planning board's meetings on public access, and so when I saw that Bob Twist was leaving the board, I updated my application and sent it back in, just because I knew there was a vacancy.
There you go. That's about what I remember.
Councilor Blue?
Sure. Ray Sexton was talking about affordable housing earlier. I'd like to talk about that briefly with you. The 10% ratio, inclusionary ratio, it's to me it seems inadequate, you know. But building affordable housing is so difficult. We need to have a lot of research into areas of how we can manage to get the housing that the people here need, you know, without having too much market rate housing, because it's so darn expensive. You know, regular people just really can't afford it. I know I couldn't, you know, I'm just a regular person. I wouldn't be able to afford the rents or the mortgages for some of these places. It's crazy, but what do you think about that?
I don't disagree with you. I mean, personally, I would like to downsize, but if I were to sell my house, I don't know where I would go. You know, any point of entry is tough at this point on the game. And I think Ray mentioned that that 10% is shouldn't be the upper limit. It should be the starting point. But if you're a developer, I'm sure they're looking at it as the upper limit of what I have to deal with. And as he mentioned, you're going to see a lot of 8 and 9 unit developments because you stay under the thresholds, and it's always a wrangle trying to get more than that 10. But I think we need to shift our orientation, because I think you mentioned it at the last town council meeting. We need 7,000 units to get the 700 that you're targeting. You'll never dig out of that hole at 10%.
Well, you're probably never gonna dig out of that hole at any percent, unless we just did 100% from now for the next 7,000 units. I mean, like, let's
I'm
like,
sure there are other communities that are dealing with and have dealt with the same thing. You have the added problem here of you really don't have a lot of available land. I mean, I was a kid on Long Island, and in the post-war they just built Levittown, but there was lots of available land. It was all farm country, and they started developing it. It's a much tougher kind of pick and choose environment here. Whether you're redeveloping, dealing with deteriorated or vacant areas. It's tough to cobble it all together. But I think as far as our orientation is concerned, we need to focus on solving that riddle. Because, I assume all those market rate units are being occupied, but are they? What's the turnover on those? What's the vacancy rates? Feels like
Who's buying them?
who's buying them?
Yeah,
or renting them.
it's a tough question.
And it just gets that much tougher when, from a regulatory standpoint, we're doing all the wrangling and arguing amongst ourselves about everything that does get proposed. Whether we're haranguing regulatory agreements or the inclusionary amount or the design features. We have a lot of moving parts that.
Yeah, that's why I kind of hope that the ad hoc committee on zoning that goes through, I see that as a real compromise, and I think democracy calls for compromise, and, you know, I'm sure the developers can figure something out with 3.5 stories on Main Street.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Counselor Crowe?
Thank you, Chair Kristen. Joe, good to see you. How would you say your skill set that you have would help out with the planning board in what particular ways?
I mean, by nature, I'm, meticulous and detail oriented. I've perused, our zoning regs and our design standards and, I've looked at some of the documentation on the planning board. I mean, there's a lot there and it just kind of ties back into the kind of work I used to do in terms of, regulatory compliance and, keeping all of that sort of thing straight and understanding, where you can look at it as an obstacle or a barrier and where you can use that as, look at it as an opportunity. So I think it's kind of familiar landscape, the subject matter may be a little different than I'm used to, but, I don't see it as a barrier.
Okay. I think one of the issues that will come up, and it really relates to affordable housing, is the short-term rental issue. And like many of our units, I think it was estimated between 3 and 5% of our housing units have gone off the market for short-term rentals and are no longer available as year-round rentals, which has sort of put a dent in our affordability co- uh, uh, here on the Cape, and especially in Barnstable. What are your ideas about those short-term rental issue, and any ideas about how that would hinder or help us?
Well, I think it's definitely hindering us. I mean, anything that's reducing your inventory is only gonna add to the crunch that we're experiencing. At every level of affordability, like I said, I'd like to downsize, but, there's so much that's gone off the market that, at almost any level that you're looking at, we're in a crunch. So, what can we do in terms of limiting that? Is it a matter of incenting people not to get into short-term rentals? Is it putting limitations on, things like corporate ownership? What kinds of steps and programs can we put into place to, make it less attractive to go short-term?
Okay, I also, you were mentioning a lot of the people, many people buy second homes here and they finance it through short-term rentals until such a day as they want to live here permanently. Many of them do it in their 40s and 50s. So those houses are off the market for quite a while. And that leads to your problem you're having now is about downsizing also. The Many of these houses are purchased but not really lived in a large percentage of the year. And I think I'm just making a statement. I think that goes along with what you're saying. So I think the short-term rental issue is going to come up pretty soon, and I'd like to see us make an effort to bring some of those properties back and make it so that people can buy their first home or downsize into a home, and not just buy it as an investment property for down the road 20 years until they decide to be old enough and retire. So um, just wonder if you had any thoughts on that.
I Not programmatically, no. You know, it's gotta be something along the line of either incentive or discouraging to, you know, to people in that situation. I mean, if somebody wants to buy a home and it's a second home, I mean, that's a market. And we do some things in town in terms of things like the tax rates and, you know, the residential exclusions and that sort of thing to make it less attractive to be a second homeowner. But you're also in an area that totally lends itself to second home ownership. You know, it's a resort area, it's a vacation area. So how do you balance those two things and make it less attractive to purchase a second home that you're, for all intents and purposes, really not gonna occupy? You know, maybe we have to ratchet up the disincentives for not occupying. You know, I mean, there's only so much you can do in terms of like prohibition, but once somebody is in that situation, it's, yeah, it's really a matter of the incentives. How attractive can you make it, or how unattractive can you make it to be in that situation?
Okay, well, thanks, Joe. Appreciate you answering my questions. I'm done. Kristen?
Thanks, you, Councilor Crowe. And I don't know if you attended any of the planning board meetings where they were looking at the regulatory agreement, the shoestring property regulatory agreement. Are you familiar with that one?
Not that one in particular, no.
That's the regulatory agreement that's gonna be coming before us where they wanna take the affordable units from two other properties.
Oh, that way,
Put it
yeah.
into one property. So you're familiar with that?
Yeah.
Were you at any of the planning board meetings where they kind of looked at that?
I think they talked about that in July, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, what your feelings would be if you're a planning board member. I know you don't have all the details maybe, but just like a surface opinion, you know, man on the street interview, here we are. We have a regulatory agreement, and part of those agreements were that we would have put X amount of affordables in these two properties, and we allowed building with that amount of affordability. We have this other property over here, and now we'd like to take some of these and put them over here and change the agreements we made over here.
Right.
And you're in the housing committee, so you probably have some feelings on that. I've seen that they've had one meeting since you've been on that committee, but how do you feel about switching of regulatory agreements from other properties into another property at a planning board level? Because they've kind of given it the blessing. So how do you think, if just a surface level, would you agree with that or not agree with that? Or things you would want to consider if you were going to be voting on it?
Sure. On the face of it, you know, I think it's something that you could consider on a case-by-case basis. In the case of that particular deal, as I recall, there were, you know, whatever the number of units were, I think that was at Dockside, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. That was one of them, and the Cape Cod Times building being the other one. They wanted to take those affordable units and put them at the 310 next to the Taco Bell.
Right, but they were also gonna increase the number and say, well, if you give us back the 3 over here, we'll give you 7 over here. Which on the face of it is like, oh, well, that's, you know, that has some merit to it because we're getting more affordable units. On the other hand, you know, what's the relative value of those units? And, you know, the units that you want the relief from having the affordable units, those are pricey units. And if you go to market rate, you're making out on that deal, you know, way more than the value of those additional affordable units that you're offering. So that one doesn't feel like it's a fair exchange. It's kind of a false equivalent, really,
Yeah.
when you look at it.
I just appreciate your opinion, because obviously if you're gonna be sitting in the seat, those are questions you might ask, and we did see with the Wilkins, the ZBA stuff at the Wilkins, that they actually went back to CFAC and asked some questions about the finances. And I mean, I think there's been an effort through the committees on committees to try to think about how can we be having our committees be liaison with other committees or with the town council, be asking better questions and getting more data. And it sounds like a piece of data for the planning board to give us, you know, the seal of approval on that would be what is the relative value of those units? Are we getting an apples to apples switch? Are we getting an apples to orange? What are the finances that, because yeah, a number is great, but it's also, like you say, the value of those units. And is that really a fair deal for this town to be undoing agreements that have already been made to allow new agreements to be made? So, and I think that sounds like that's something you would be thinking in your head or saying out loud, as it may be, so.
Did I hear correctly, you say that since Joe has been a member of the housing committee, there's only been one meeting?
Yes.
There's one
There
on the
was a
25th in
meeting the
September.
week after I was
Yeah,
appointed.
and then there's one September 25th.
Oh, wow.
That's what I was looking at my cell phone, just because I wasn't trying to ignore what you're saying, I wanted to make sure I had my data.
We kept you real busy on that one, didn't we?
He is out straight.
One of the reasons why, you know, I decided to go after the planning committee too, planning board too, because, you know, to your question to Ray about serving on more than one committee. I don't think in this case it's a stretch.
Well, thank you for your time. We appreciate you coming in and talking with us again.
All right,
And
thanks.
it may have seemed a little redundant, but I just think because the information of the planning board is different from the housing committee, it was good to have a
Definitely.
conversation related to the board that you're applying to.
Okay,
All right.
all right.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, folks.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Okay, next is James O'Neill applying for the Board of Assessors to a regular member position to a term expiring 6/30 of 28. Do you go by James or Jim or Jimmy or?
James usually, but it doesn't matter.
I like to ask.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So, Counselor Crowe, would you like to start?
Okay, wasn't ready there for a minute.
You want me to?
James? Hi, James. John Crowe, counselor from Precinct 5. Tell me what your background is as far as assessing and how you think you fit in.
Well, I've worked for the assessing department in the town of Barnstable for about 3 years. Got a couple of courses under my belt, certainly assessing 101, which is the state requirement for the position. I've been a regular attendee at previous Board of Assessors meetings when I was within the assessing office. Went just about every month. Every time they had a meeting, I would go. Familiar with all of the laws that are applicable. I lived it. Familiar with the way property values are going in the town and have been going. Familiar with the data analysis required to find that valuation. And I know assessing. I'm familiar with the vast majority of it, so happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, how long have you done it? How long have you done assessing for this town or? And
In total,
the other-
about 3 years.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have, Kristen.
Thank you. Counselor Bloom?
I'm sorry.
James, it looks like your background is perfect for this job. And, well, you're not gonna get paid much for it.
Yeah. Understood, but you don't do it for the pay, you do it.
Yes, yeah. You're working a regular job too.
Yeah.
And you seem like a young guy. And so you've got
Relatively.
a lot of years ahead of you.
That's okay. Yeah.
Do you think that the
I'm sorry.
extra
I have an
time-
emergency, but I know you're a good guy.
Yeah,
but I gotta
He has
go,
an
I'm
emergency.
sorry.
So
Okay,
Counselor
it's
Burdick
not
is leaving because he has an
I'm
emergency.
sorry.
Thank you, Seth.
Do you think that the time that you will have to devote to the Board of Assessors would be something you can handle?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I did, while I was in the assessing office, I actually did the MMA. Suffolk does a certificate program for, it's like the first half of a master's, or the first quarter of a master's. Meeting every Friday and lots of coursework, writing papers every week. I'm used to it, and I'm happy to do it. I mean, it's important work, and I'm willing to put the hours in.
Great. I'm ready to vote for him.
I also, just as an aside, I also have a degree in geography, so I'm used to
I saw that,
spatial relationships and data analysis.
Okay. I am a little confused, so I need to start back at the beginning, and we didn't have Counselor Burdick start at the beginning, so here I am. I'm like at the tail end, and I gotta go back to the beginning. So, you worked for the town for 3 years. Are you still currently working for the
Yep,
town?
I'm in public health now.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, I'm like, first of all, you look familiar.
Yeah.
I'm like, and how do I know him? I feel like he works for the town. I guess my question is, this seems like a silly question, so I'm gonna ask it out loud. Is a town employee allowed to be on a board, committee, or commission?
Yes, there are a number of boards that have current town employees on them, from what I've been told. I spoke with,
Like, you asked,
yeah.
I just wanna make sure we don't put
actually,
you on there, like.
when I was talking to Bill Gareffi about it,
Uh-huh,
I put in the application, and then the
Yeah.
day after I called and said, hey, is
Yeah.
this a problem?
yeah,
I
is
know.
there a conflict
I
on
know
some
there's
level?
I mean, I certainly couldn't work in assessing and be on the board, because then I'd
Okay, cause
be
you,
my own
okay.
boss,
Yeah,
which
well,
would
I
be a
mean,
strange thing.
you'd be kind of conflicted, because you'd
Yeah,
be,
right,
like, representing the town in the assessing department, and then determining, assessing things over
Yeah.
here from a board,
that
from
would be,
board level.
that would,
But because you're not in the
Yeah.
assessing department anymore,
right.
that clears you to be able to be in there, okay,
And
all right.
for, as far as I spoke to HR too, as far as I'm aware, the only cooling down period that they have is for town council. So there's no time period. Like if you work for the town and you wanna go for town council, you have to be out of the town for a year.
Okay, and how long have you been out of assessing?
4 months,
Okay, and you're in what section again now?
public health.
Public health. Okay, so what kinds of things do you do in public health, just to give the audience?
Right, story time, hazmat specialist.
Okay,
So, I mean, just in the 4 months that I've been here, I found a big diesel spill off of Bodick Road. DEP, state got involved, big cleanup. Found some dumping behind the Barnacle off of Craigville Beach Road, some oil.
like cooking oil?
Cooking oil, yep, currently dealing with that. All sorts of, the vast majority has been, so there's an ordinance that requires any business or operation to register with the town if they deal with hazardous materials. There's a fee schedule, like if it's less than 26 gallons, it's a no fee. Above that, it goes higher. And so the majority of it is inspecting these places that are already registered for renewals, but also finding places that are dodging, because really the position, it's called hazardous materials specialist, but really the position is groundwater protection. So I'm interested in stopping businesses from dumping oil or letting stuff run off into the storm drains and getting into our water system. That's sort of where I am currently. And it involves lots of inspections, dealing with business owners and property owners, and then a couple of, trash complaints and food things thrown in here and there, so.
All right, and I'm just curious, how you transitioned, how was it that you moved from assessing over to the health division? Just an opening?
It was open.
You said
There
that
was
sounds
an
more
opening.
interesting?
Well, no,
I'm
not necessarily.
just curious. Tell us about your life.
So
If
I was
anything's too
born,
personal, you can
and
say
then,
that.
no, I'm happy to answer any questions. Let's just a quick,
Yeah.
born and raised Barnstable resident. Went to college at Bridgewater, geography, moved to Japan for 5 years, came back to take care of my mother who had COPD and she needed taken care of. And then as that got worse and worse, my ability to do things was reduced. So, and then she passed in 2020. And actually, how I got working with the town is interesting because I used to still sometimes do a lot of singing. And I crossed paths with Matt Levesque. And he said, "Oh, there's an opening in assessing." I applied, got that job, and it's been a dream ever since. And then through that, I did training courses, did the MMA, Mass Municipal Association Suffolk certificate program. Also, they run, Lynn Poignant coordinates a wonderful employee leadership academy, and that was a few months ago. Fantastic. Really gets a holistic view of the town and the different departments. But I'm also friends with Thomas McKean, who they had been holding that hazmat opening for a while. And I had, at the time, the Board of Assessors pretty much had two regular members. A third member hadn't been in attendance for a long time, and one of the members is 98 years old, and the other has been on boards in the town for 25 plus years, I think.
I was old.
He makes it to every meeting. It's incredible. And so actually part of the move to public health was to facilitate getting on the Board of Assessors to help them. Because I know that they had been struggling, and to put so much on two board members just to have a quorum is a lot.
And you can't just pull somebody out of thin air and put them in the assessing department. Because I know I've dealt with the assessing department, and I don't have the greatest relationship with them prior to our new director, who I think is amazing. He's done a great job, so I hope you feel the same, but it is a very complicated topic. Like literally every time I get my bill, I still think I'm being incorrectly assessed from the day I built my house. And Director Kern has been great about taking my calls and explaining to me, because the assessing topic is very complicated. And I give you credit for even having an interest in it. Although I think it probably can be pretty interesting. From the little I know, I'm like, that's kind of interesting, actually.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of variety, I'm sure, in what you see and on paper, and if people let you in their homes and all that stuff. So I just wanted to make sure that we were, you weren't an employee conflicted in some way, and that makes total sense.
Thus far, I have not received a no from.
Okay. And I'm thinking of remembering you because you were in the production of The King and I. Were you in The King and I?
Years ago.
I remember now. You
Wow.
look familiar. It was a great production.
Thank you.
Anyway, you were amazing. So
Thank you.
That's funny. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Well, when he said he did some acting, I was like, I know that guy now. That was a great performance. I may have seen you somewhere else too, but okay, I think that's enough about my love of your acting career. And we appreciate you coming in. And we're happy that everything is shifted to get in alignment, and that we have some new blood, hopefully, on the Board of Assessors to help get the job done, because I'm sure it's a big job.
There's a lot to do between
Yeah,
exemptions, abatements, setting property values, and this year's a reval year,
yeah.
which is huge. It's a big burden on the staff, so
Yeah.
any way I
I
can
can
help
give you
them.
a couple opinions on that topic.
Yeah.
We'll do that
Anytime.
right here.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So,
So,
thank you for your
thank
time
you.
today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, James.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, last but not least, Chris Bartley. He's applying for the Disability Commission. Come have a seat.
Chris.
He is applying to, we have two options, a member vacancy to a term expiring in 6/30/28. An associate member, I would recommend we don't worry about the associate member. We think to the full member position. So Chris, I'm gonna start if you don't mind. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, so I work at the May Institute, which deals with, or which works with severely autistic adults. And they also do kids, but that's off Cape. I work on Cape, obviously, in Barnstable, in Marston Mills to be exact. And my dad is in a Seven Hills group home in off Cape. And I've been involved in the town of Barnstable since 2012. I've lived here my whole life. I grew up in Hyannis. I still live in Hyannis. I live right on Pitcher's Way. And I've been on the Disability Commission 2 times before. The first time I left because I was like changing jobs and there was like a lot of things going on, and then I was settling into my job on my second. And now I'm in this job for 5 years, and this person, I don't mean to get nationally political, but this person in the White House has made me become back involved because I feel like he is going after every marginalized community that there is, be it disabled, be it LGBT, be it any marginalized community right now. And I want to be there for town of Barnstable, and I was like, I'm gonna get back into this.
Okay, excellent, that sounds good. Counselor Bloom.
So it seems like I admire somebody who really wants to help people who are marginalized, especially people with emotional disabilities and on the spectrum and that sort of thing, because my son is, and he had a very difficult time getting to where he is now, you know, many hospitalizations and all kinds of experimentations with this medication and that, you know, and so it took about 15 years, but he finally found a solid footing, you know, and he wouldn't have been able to do it if it weren't for people like you who were there helping him, you know. So it seems to me that you have a pretty good, and you mentioned that your father is in a group home?
Yeah, my dad is in a brain injury group home. He has brain injuries due to seizures and epilepsy. He was considered in 2009 as one of the worst cases of epilepsy in the state. And the firefighters in Hyannis are the paramedics too, and they were coming to our house and being like, you need to do something. We have never seen something like this before. And me and my mom my mom was since I was 14 at the time, my mom was like, all right, we're going up to Leahy Clinic right now. I am putting my foot down. I am telling his parents to being like, I'm done. We're gonna figure something out. And then they basically shut his whole body down in 2009, put him in a self-induced coma, and he hasn't been able to walk. He knows who you are and everything ever since the coma, but he just has no frame of logic. He has no he's no motor skills basically to go and do laundry, go and do like things on his own anymore. So
Wow,
yeah.
that's.
And I have my own disabilities. I actually am ADHD, and I have anxiety, depression too, from the ADHD. And I'm actually medicated for it too myself. And so I know all about like medications, and my dad has been on every medication in the book for seizures. So medication and care are two things
Yeah.
I know a lot about.
Yeah, and I think with all that experience, that you'd be a fine addition to the
And the
human
last
services.
time I was part of the Disability Commission, right towards the end was when John Crow, I believe, took over the liaison. So I think I met John Crow right towards the end of me being on the commission. But other than I think John Crow, I think Matt Levesque is the only one who actually knows who I am. I've been like that I've been involved in the town. I just left in 2022 because I was so focusing on my work, and now there's so many new people like you, Kristen, and Charlie.
Yeah.
I don't recognize anybody anymore.
That's all right, we know so many people, we're like, you just introduce yourself again and we'll introduce ourselves again. We like when we wear our name tags or our name plates. Probably should have them here, actually. Counselor Crowe?
Yeah, thanks for coming to talk to us. I just want you to know that I also have a lot of experience with epilepsy, and my older brother has mental handicaps and epilepsy, and so he's taken drugs for years for that, and so it's and I also know some people in my family who've got anxiety issues too. So I understand where you're coming from. I think that's important into what you want to do here, and so I wish you luck in your bid for this position.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul is really looking forward to, I heard, to getting me back on, because I'm a loudmouth for disability people. I am very vocal when it comes to being there for people that have, especially disabilities that you don't actually see, that are not visible. I was one of the biggest proponents of that on the Disability Commission. There was no other people that knew much about that. They only knew about the physical disabilities. So I got to put into another part of a new part of the, yeah.
So I think though, what we need to clear up though is on this form, the Disability Commission is not checked off.
Yes.
It's
I think it was on the computer,
You
so it was kind of like,
Human Services is
did I
checked
really?
off.
Maybe it was the computer that did that.
Okay, so we
But you do want the Disability
Yes,
Commission
yes.
checked off, okay.
Yes,
Perfect.
I would love to do the Human Services Committee, but the Human Services, I believe, is meeting a time I'm at work or something like that. Or I'm not sure when they meet. I work in Human Services, so.
You do, for sure.
So let's
Just
see.
one last question, do you listen to podcasts at all?
No, well, kind of sometimes.
You should listen to a podcast called The Telepathy Tapes.
Left.
It's really interesting. It's a series of on people who are nonverbal, autistic people who are nonverbal.
That's majority of my
And they use
house I work at.
telepathy. It's a really interesting.
Yeah.
I've just started listening to it. I think you would really enjoy it.
That's
Being
cool,
in your
yeah.
field, it's quite amazing that this group of nonverbal autistic, mainly children, but they're growing into adults, and it's the history of how they use telepathy to communicate.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
It's really interesting, so
That's
check it
cool,
out.
yeah.
So, well, thank you for coming today and
Thank you.
introducing
Thank you,
yourself
Chris.
to the new people. I know
Yeah.
you might know John and some other people in town, but we appreciate your
Matt
time.
Matt knows me very well. I really respect Matt. I've been to many events with him over the years, and I don't know, is he term limited this year, I think?
I think this is his last chance. He's
Yeah.
putting in his last 4 years. He's
Yeah.
signed up
I think he's going to
run.
Centerville the
He-
commissioners now.
No, he did not make that
Oh, he
position,
didn't make
no,
it?
so,
Oh.
but he's running for town council again, so.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
All right,
thank you, Chris,
so
for
much.
coming in. We appreciate
Thank
you
you,
coming
Chris.
out today, and you'll be hearing from us.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to item C is, we have a resignation from the zoning board of appeals, that's Mark Hanson.
Yep.
Moving on to D, we have some reappointments listed here. I would like to not vote on Conservation Commission as I discussed because we haven't interviewed Mr. Lee and Mr. Sampu. And I'd like to hold off on the ZBA reappointment only because again that we have a new opening and we said that we would, be taking applications and interviewing and re-interviewing. So that leaves us with a Human Services Committee, Kimberly Crocker Crowther is a regular member to a term expiring 6/30/2028. Would anyone like to make a motion to reappoint?
I don't know her, so I would have a difficult time making a motion.
Okay, John?
Same here, I don't have any knowledge of her. I'm assuming how long she's been on the committee?
She's been on for a while. I just want to point out, we have plenty of people on here that we've reappointed that we have no knowledge about, and we've just reappointed them. We don't have anybody else who's applied for human services, so I feel like at this point
Then I will
that we should
nominate her.
reappoint because we've been
Yeah.
reappointing everybody else and it wouldn't
Okay.
be fair. You know.
Sounds good, I'll second that.
Okay, all right, so all those in favor of reappointing Kimberly Crocker Crowther as a regular member to a term expiring 6/30/2028?
Aye.
Oh, we should take a roll call. Counselor Crowe?
Yes.
Counselor Bloom?
Yes.
Counselor Turkelson, yes, that passes. And we have the Waterways Committee, Gary Schremek, as a regular member to a term expiring 6/30/2028. Would somebody like to nominate?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second,
All those in favor, Counselor Crowe,
yes.
Counselor Bloom,
Yes.
Counselor Turkelson is a yes. Okay, so we have the planning board, let's just review in totality, actually, let's just make two more things. I'd like to move that we consider James O'Neill for the Board of Assessors to a regular member to a term expiring 6/30/2028. Would anyone like to second that?
Seconded.
Okay, Counselor Crowe?
We just met him, is there anybody else up for that position, or is that the only position?
Nope, Board of Assessors is a smart guy, he gets the job.
I second that,
So let's vote. Counselor Crowe?
yes.
Counselor Bloom?
Yes.
Counselor Turkelson's a yes, that passes.
Thank you, Meredith.
Congratulations.
Thank
And would anybody like a motion for Chris Bartley to Disability Commission position for member vacancy to term expiring 6/30/2028?
So moved.
Second,
Counselor Crowe?
yes.
Counselor Bloom?
Yes.
And Counselor Turkelson is yes, that passes. Okay, so going on to letter E. We have applicants that have interviewed prior to today for the planning board. So John, I don't know, do you have the agenda in front of you?
I do not, because I'm away.
Okay, so I'll read it out, and if you need me to clarify, you'll just let me know.
Yes.
All of the applicants to date. We have Deborah Dworkis, she interviewed on April 1st of 2025. She also has applications to other committees, to the open space, to the community preservation, and also she sent an email that she is interested in the ZBA. We have Seth Etienne, who interviewed on 6/24/2025. We have Samantha, or I'm gonna mispronounce her name, Aroni, who interviewed on 6/24/2025. Catherine Finkenstadt interviewed on 8/12/2025. And we have Joseph Takanya, who interviewed today. So the question, I would like to vote on this today. Is there anyone that objects to voting on that today?
No objection.
So what would we be voting on?
We're voting on, good question.
Planning board?
We have Mr. Sexton, who's on the plan, so we basically have two openings. We have one reconsideration and one true opening. So we have the opportunity to reappoint Mr. Sexton and another person. We have the opportunity to take from the other people who are not Mr. Sexton and put them on the planning board. So as we've said, Mr. Sexton doesn't just get the position because he's in the position. So we really have two planning board seats.
I vote for the open seat, I will nominate Catherine Finkelstedt.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay. Counselor Crowe,
Yes.
Counselor Bloom,
Yes.
and Counselor Turkelson is yes. Okay, so,
And I nominate Ray Sexton to be reconsidered for another term.
I'll second it.
okay, Counselor Crowe,
Yes.
Counselor Bloom,
Yes.
Counselor Torkelson is a yes. Okay, so that moves. And again, we're gonna hold off on the Conservation Commission. Just to remind the public, we have Mr. DeMello, who's interviewed on 8/12 of 2025. We have Heather Swenson, who interviewed on 8/12 of 25. And then we have two people, Mr. Thomas Lee and Mr. Pete Sampu are both up for reappointment. And we're waiting for those interviews to be scheduled. And I think that covers everything. So just to give you guys a sense of what I think we need to do next, is we need to do the Conservation Commission, because I think we've been just waiting and waiting. We have open space, we have a couple of reappointments, and again, we have Ms. Dworkis who's applied for that. And then, you know, the ZBA, which is kind of newly noted in the community, so I think we need to you know, advertise that at the next council meeting and see if others in the community are interested. And then I will just go through and double check that there aren't any other appointments that we've been kind of not dealing with or have gotten confused or lost or otherwise misplaced. So the next meeting will really be trying to get the Conservation Commission re-interviews and the open space people and a ZBA, any other ZBA people that come in. So does that sound like a good plan?
Sounds like a good plan.
Do we want to?
Agree.
Do we have?
We don't have a
Another date?
meeting? No, do you want to do that now?
Sure.
Let me get my calendar.
Sure. My only other question is for you, Counselor Bloom, is, you know, we made this meeting on a Wednesday to be able to get the conservation people
Yeah.
interviewed, and that didn't
Right.
work out. So if we do it on a Tuesday, we need to do it early in the day on a 6:30 meeting, or do we want to do it on another Wednesday so that we're free and clear?
I think we should grab a time, you know,
And hope it works out.
because we need to have, there's so many other things in you know, like broadcasting and
Yeah.
Zooming and stuff, and we need staff involved and so and we need somebody to check it out, and
Yeah.
isn't that what
We'll
Cindy does?
we'll make a date and then I'll talk with Cindy to make sure that it
Okay.
works. And then if it doesn't, we will make another date.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm thinking the Wednesday, the first won't work. We have a code committee that day. You back with us, John?
Yes, I am.
How about Wednesday, the 29th?
Wednesday, the 29th of October.
Yep. No, September.
It's a
That's a
Monday.
Monday.
Oh, it's a Monday? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, my calendar just loves to do that.
There's a Wednesday, the 24th.
Sorry. Let me just look at something then. Okay. Okay, so do we think 2 weeks from now is too soon? What does everybody think?
Possibly,
Okay,
yeah,
what,
because
the conservation, do they meet on Tuesday, the 30th, do you know?
Meet on the 23rd.
They meet on the 23rd, so they don't meet on the 30th?
Correct.
Okay, do you want to do Tuesday, the 30th at 3?
Okay, for me.
Sound good for you, Charlie?
let me just do a quick check
Sure.
to see if health, because Tom is
Oh,
on
on
health
health,
too,
yes.
so let me see. Do you have a
Let me look.
schedule for the
Are you
health?
looking for health? Board of Health's on the 30th?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Board of Health is on the 30th?
Yeah.
What time of the day do you have? 4.
At
4
4.
o'clock.
They do that here or they do that remote?
Here.
No, they do that here.
Yeah.
So do you think he would come early at 3 and then he would?
I don't see why not.
Okay, so why don't we plan for the 30th at 3? And-
September 30th at 3
Yeah,
o'clock.
and we'll see if we can get Mr. Lee in first. and then he can get to his Board of Health meeting.
You won't have to go far.
It's very convenient. And then I'll also just double check with Cindy that day is available. So John, the 30th at 3,
Okay,
sound good?
Tuesday?
Okay,
All right,
would somebody like a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second,
Counselor Crowe,
yes.
Counselor Bloom,
Yes.
Counselor Turkelson, yes, meeting is adjourned.
See you,
Well
John.